Get ready for the Liberian View's next discourse this Sunday, March 17 at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time and 9:30 p.m. GMT on StreamYard. This week's discussion will be on what makes a healthy socio-economic system for Liberia. I am Lucy Wilson Kier, founder and CEO of the Liberian View. Don't miss out on this all-inclusive first-hand experience into the current livelihood of Liberians. To watch previous discussions such as Liberians at home and abroad working together for a brighter future and the foundational principles for a healthy system in Liberia, follow the Liberian View at www.facebook.com/The Liberian View or www.youtube.com/The Liberian View. Again, join us this Sunday, March 17 on StreamYard at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time and 9:30 p.m. GMT. Thank you. Hello again. My name is Lucy Wilson Kier, and I would like to welcome all our supporters, viewers, especially, and our dynamic panelists who have taken the time to provide content on our topic, the foundational principles for a healthy system for better and brighter Liberia. The discussion will focus on three key areas, and they are human capital development, that is investing in people, the rule of law, of a fair and impartial justice system. Then number three, beyond election, that is democracy is not just voting. How can we foster a culture of active citizenship and democratic participation? Wow, what a topic and its emphasis. As Liberians, we have witnessed and or participated in the history of our beloved country, Liberia, overcoming incredible challenges, that is emerging from civil war with unwavering resilience and just conducted an electoral process. Can you imagine what's possible with building a foundation of strong and healthy system for Liberia? Liberia stands at crossroads. The time to build a healthy system is now. So please support the Liberian View by letting us know what is your vision for a healthy system in Liberia. Please share your ideas and let us build a brighter future together at www.facebook.com/The Liberian View or at www.youtube.com/The Liberian View. Thank you. Now let's tune to our wonderful selfless panelists who will first briefly introduce themselves, and after the introduction, you'll be hearing from our own Reverend Dr. Rudolph Brooklyn. So we'll start the introduction from Reverend Dr. Brooklyn.
Good evening, Lucy, and good evening to my friends, Dr. Lloyd and Mrs. Conner. Good to see you, and I hope it's well where you all are. It's well in Liberia. It's hot and it's dark. We have a light company that does not provide electricity. And so
Wow.
we struggle um, with the essential. But we are hopeful and we keep doing our part so that we can walk into a tomorrow that's going to be better than our yesterday. It's good to be here tonight from LIB. As you know, we're 4 hours ahead of you now, not five. So in America we complicate things. We keep moving the time. In Liberia, we just have one time, so we stick with the one time. So, but we are we are 4 hours now ahead of you. So it's 8:44 over here, and then
Wow.
it's 4:44 on the East Coast. But I'm glad to be here, and hopefully I can add something. I think every day, we get up, we read the papers, we experience things, we listen to the news, and it's becoming clearer that the time has come for decisive leadership. The
Hmm.
president has to make some moves now because things are looking eerily similar to 6 years ago. So this is the time to step up and begin to let the nation feel like we're moving in the right direction. And I'll say a little more about that later as the host gave me the opportunity. But I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. We really love to having you because at least you're making a sacrifice. Can you imagine? It's 8:30 p.m. in Liberia, hot, and our Reverend took his time to be a part of this particular discussion. So we want to say thank you so much. We'll now turn it over to Mrs. Conant, to just briefly introduce herself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mrs. Anita Kwikanen. A project manager for the United States Environmental Protection Agency. I live here in Virginia. Thank you for having me on the platform today, Mrs. Gaff. Thank you. Looking forward to
Thank you
hearing.
so much. So we turn it over to our own Reverend Dr. Edwin Lloyd.
Meet yourself. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Good evening and good afternoon to all of you based on your location. I just want to thank God for a bright day and a wonderful time of worship I had today, and I believe that God's blessing is upon you all also. Just happy to be here. I'm Reverend Dr. J. Edwin Lloyd Jr., and a local minister in the Beltsville, Maryland area, and also I work in the mental health and human services with the Department of Defense. And also I'm engaged in various community organizations also. So I'm happy to be joining today as we discuss issues pertinent to the growth and development of Liberia. The comment of Dr. Brookler is evident of the
Mhm.
need for us to begin to work together. I do want to say we work together to make sure that we can be able to help uh, the government of Liberia and all Liberians coming together to see how we can solve the problems that we have in Liberia. Energy is key to economic growth. So without energy, it's difficult for us to grow economically in this modern society that we find ourselves in. But we will talk about that as we move forward. But I'm glad to be here, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the platform.
Thank you so much to all our panelists. We know we have one or two persons that will be joining later on. However, we give the floor to our own Reverend Dr. Brookler on the topic, the foundational principles for a healthy system for better and brighter Liberia. Dr. Brookler, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lucy. And again, I introduced these five basic foundational principles:
Mhm.
modesty, integrity, accountability, sacrifice, and service. And I think more than ever before, our nation desperately needs to engage and build a new system on that foundation. And I hope that this president can make that a requirement that all of his leaders sign up for these five principles. For example, modesty. So here we are, a nation with a very, very low median income, one of the lowest in the world. But yet we have unusually high salaries, even for agencies and companies that are not functioning or performing. And then we come into a new season and we don't see any sign of modesty. In fact, in some cases, it's getting worse. Everybody now is requiring an escort. So the police department is fast becoming an escort police service. So you drive. I live in Dwaza on Boystown Junction. That's a main thoroughfare, right? The most traveled road in Liberia right now, that Roberts Free Highway. You drive from where I live all the way up to Ear David Junction. Most time, you hardly see a police officer, but you will see them all day escorting people with sirens and all of those kinds of things. So we have to be modest because we're a poor country. So modesty is important. Integrity, clean hands, just being open with the public, being transparent, letting people know what's up. Accountability. You hear all this stuff about, war and economic crimes tribunal and court and all these things. Accountability is a must. Otherwise, the culture of impunity continues. And the fact is, you take war crime aside, economic crime is one of the principal reasons why a 176-year-old nation is still so far behind the rest of Africa and yes, the world. It's serious. And we got to talk like it's serious. We Liberians have to act like, okay, there's a sense of urgency. Because yes, what we do around here, we rationalize and justify why things are the way they are. And we say things like this too is Liberia, but Liberia can be better. Sacrifice. We have to sacrifice. The government can't be the big elephant meat where you come to get everything. The government have to be a place where you come and make some sacrifices so that at least for the next 6 years, we'll get to a much healthier place. And then service. The key part of public service is actually service, is to serve people and not to be served. So I think these principles just lay a foundation, especially in this current climate. If we can be modest, live with integrity, exercise accountability, make some sacrifices, and serve the people, this nation will be better sooner. And that's my hope. And I hope we can move down that road.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Buple. As you all heard, and all those that are watching us viewing this particular show, Reverend Buple just stated the five main areas that we need to look at as Liberians, not only the government, but also as citizens. Modesty, looking at our country, we are one of the lowest income paid country, so, but there's no sign of modesty. For instance, you talk about the police department, has become an escort agency. I mean, what is that? And you also talk about integrity, being transparent, accountability. Also, he says it's a must. The war crime code is also a must. And not only that, but economic crime should also be a sense of urgency. So we are asking the government to really look into that because it's very important. Also, sacrifice, because we don't have money. I mean, the government officials and others should also sacrifice. There's no better way of serving your country if you don't have a sense of being a sense and the need to sacrifice for your own country and service. If you're a public servant, you need to do your job. Make sure that you serve the people and not to be someone that needs to be served. So let's look at that. If you are viewing this particular discussion, please put your questions in the chat and make sure that you also give us your view in the chat. Having said that, we want to say thank you so much, Reverend Brople. So we'll turn it over to our own Reverend Dr. Edwin Lloyd for his own perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Pierre, and thank you, Dr. Brople, for giving that brilliant insight about the current conditions and the barriers to having healthy systems in Liberia. And from what we have stated, it need to start with responsibility when it comes to those who have been given the gavel of authority in the nation. They have to be very conscientious about the meager resources that we have and how we can put in systems to manage them more effectively to generate productivity in the nation. But what I want to briefly speak about is that every nation, in order to have effective system, must have the finances or have a economic structure that will be able to propel that growth and also sustain those systems and as they are established, because if those systems are not established and they are not sustainable, therefore there will be a breakdown in all of the systems that will work together simultaneously to propel the nation forward. So it's very important. So I want for us to look at Liberia as a whole, the economy of Liberia in general, because those various systems, you need human capital development. Basically, you talked about that earlier, to be able to run these systems, like, law enforcement. That's a very crucial area. We're talking about the government sector, transportation, the very various systems in Liberia that's crucial to growth. But the first thing is that Liberia is potentially a very, very rich country. The GDP of Liberia as of 2022 was about $4.4 billion in GDP. So that is the total of all goods and services produced within a specific period of time, which is within that year. All right, but the main thing I want to bring to our attention is that the bulk of that goods and services produced in that period of time comes from the agrarian productivity. That mean agriculture, basically rubber, and then it comes from mining, and rubber mining and agriculture. The three sectors of the economy. Mining and rubber account for a gross amount of the productivity. But what happened here is that the revenue from mining and rubber, Liberia received a meager amount of that. So look at that. The total production is $4.4 billion, right? So the goods and services produced and they are sold on the world market amount to that. Can you imagine? But so you can see how rich Liberia is potentially. If Liberia had complete monopoly over her mining sector, a complete monopoly over her agricultural sector, that means include rubber, and mining sector including gold, diamond, all those precious resources, iron ore, and all those resources that we have that export out of Liberia. So the export and value of Liberia is over $4 billion. Can you imagine that? All right. So now, how can we put a system in place that would be able to direct a significant amount of that revenue that goes out of the country, or that is produced out of the natural resources, the human capital resource, and the natural resources of Liberia, that goes into the international community, that does not come back to benefit the people of Liberia? How can we put a system in place to be able to handle that. In that way, the financial resource will be able to finance the judicial system in Liberia. They break down law and order, be able to pay the employees, the police officers on the street, and they'll be able to provide them resources and the family resources that they would be able to work effectively and increase their productivity and eradicate corruption. So these are things that we can think about. So the economic systems in Liberia need to be revamped. Also, we have to look at domestic revenue potential of Liberia. And when I visited Liberia, I see everybody on the street selling, everybody doing their own business and everything else of that. But government is not getting any piece of those sales that they make. You look at in America, for every sale that is made in America, the government of the United States receive a percentage of that sale. All right. So how can we put a system in Liberia that would be able to generate domestic revenue through tax generation when it comes to and sales from the purchasing of goods and services? You work, you pay tax to the government. If you buy anything in a store or in the street, you pay tax to the government. So the government of Liberia is losing millions of dollars from those petty trades and all the regulation of trade in Liberia. All right, so it's very important. What kind of system can we put together to be able for the government to be able to generate domestic revenue, and then in return turn that domestic revenue into incentive for those business people in Liberia. So in that way, the business people would not feel the burden from the taxes that are imposed on them, but yet and still they would also get it in return of incentive and opportunities to grow in their businesses. So if new infrastructure will be given, and including roads and better marketplaces and better goods and services coming in Liberia. And so those things are very important. So we produce, we export, and then we do not receive any benefit from the exports, but then we import more than we consume because Liberia is an agrarian economy. So therefore, all we put out is an agriculture products. But when it comes to finished goods and service manufactured goods, we ordered all the manufactured goods that we use in Liberia. So those are the things that actually killing the Liberian economy and killing growth. And so therefore, there's a breakdown in all of the systems because there's no revenue to sustain those systems effectively. So how can we put these systems together? And it's something that very, very much that we have to work on and begin to put our minds and brains together. We, especially in the diaspora, because we have the expertise for that. The Liberian government need to first begin to tap on the diaspora. The human capital value of the diaspora is very crucial because that's the only another group of people that Liberia has right now, trained professionals that are in the diaspora. So how can you attract those folks back, or how you can utilize them wherever they are? We know we're in the electronic age and the cyber age right now. So I can be right here and work for the government of Liberia. Anybody else can be here and work for the government of Liberia, or they can have a meeting and together to discuss issues crucial to the growth of the country. So the Liberian government needs to start strategizing ways in which you can utilize the human capital, where both local and internationally to be able to devise these systems, putting together think tank groups that will be able to brainstorm on issues. Those are things I think maybe the boycott government need to start looking at so that we can be able to put systems together in Liberia. And I will stop there and give the rest of my panelists some time to also expand on these issues.
Thank you so much, Reverend Lloyd. As you're viewing this particular discussion, you know that Reverend Lloyd just stated plainly that the government needs to strategize on establishing and sustaining economic systems that are crucial to the growth, looking at our mining sectors, our agricultural, and most importantly, minimizing imports and maximizing exports. So we're going to go on to our next panelist, Mr. Leo Johnson. And as you all are aware, Leo has really, really lived in what we are talking about. How can we put healthy systems together to to build, how can we put a healthy system together to help develop our country, Liberia, to make it better and brighter. And we can work together to build a healthy system. So Mr. Leo Johnson has actually done that. So I want to take this time to congratulate you, Mr. Johnson, for what you've done. Mr. Johnson lived in Canada. He lived in Canada. He served also as president of the Liberian Association in Canada. He has worked in Canada. His dream from being in refugee camp in Ghana, and from Liberia to Ghana, from Ghana to Canada. As a young man, he dreamed about how can he give back to his country? What can I do for my country? Not what my country can do for me. So that's why Dr. Brooklyn spoke about sacrifice. So we need to think about that. So we are glad to have Mr. Johnson, who through his dream and made sure that he has built a learning center in Liberia. This is what we're talking about. How can we work together to build a healthy system for Liberia? Not only us, for us, but for the generations to come. And Mr. Leo Johnson have done that. So I want to appreciate you on behalf of the Liberian View for what you've done. And we are praying that others will emulate you. And I can tell you, Liberian View, as you're part of Liberian View, will make sure that we continue your trend. So thank you so much. So the floor is yours.
No, thank you, Lucy, and thank you, everyone. Good to see you, Dr. Brooklyn, Dr. Lloyd as well, Reverend Dr. Lloyd, and good to see you, Mrs. Kane, as well. Greetings from Canada, right across the border, not too far away. Um, yeah, no, thank you. And as I'm listening to the topic, I will speak a little bit, just based on my little experience on trying to work in Liberia. There are two key areas that are really important for me. Number one is the education system. Um, to build a system, it has to be indigenous to the place. Liberia is Liberia. It's not Ghana. It's not Cote d'Ivoire. It's not Nigeria. It's not the United States. It is Liberia, even though there are some good practices that we're able to get from other places that have built systems. But our systems have to be indigenous to us. And what I've learned in my young life, and many of you here are my seniors, so you will know more than I do in your experience, is that we've often photocopied systems and tried to paste them in our country. From the very founding of the country to now, we've seen a lot of things, and in some cases, they've worked. But in some cases, it's been putting round pegs in square holes, or square pegs in round holes, any ways you want to put it. I'll give a typical example. Every year we see China, the United States, and the European Union and other governments come and provide a number of scholarships for young Liberians to go across and study. Some of them in the tune of 50, 60, 70 million dollars when you pull all of them together. So we bring our young and brightest out here to come and study. I mean, no disrespect to the advanced education systems here, but when they go back to Liberia, they look like zombies because the sophisticated systems and stuff they learn within makes absolutely no sense to the reality of where Liberia is. So as much as they're very well educated, when they go back to Liberia, we're still sketching things on pencils and in AutoCAD when they've just learned on systems that are way beyond where we are. So there's a direct disconnect. And I asked someone the question, what if we told China, European Union, United States all combined that this $70 million you want to spend this year to send over 200 Liberians to expensive universities? What if you built a state-of-the-art technical university in Liberia, help us for the first 5 years with faculty that can work with our faculty to develop the capacity we need so that we can educate tens of thousands of young Liberians based on the need of Liberia and not based on the need of China or the United States or Ghana or Nigeria. Second of all, we have the same thing at the University of Liberia. The biggest crime we can commit in Liberia is to keep deceiving the young people of Liberia that we are educating them in our universities. The earliest accounting book I could find on the shelf at UL when I was there 2 weeks ago is from 1997. Who's reading that? It is irrelevant in any modern education setting. And we keep comforting ourselves every time we graduate them and lie to them that we are educating them for the future, and most of them end up selling in Raleigh market and Waterside market. And then we wonder why when we bring the best system sometimes in place, or the most educated people to help us put the system in place, it collapses the moment they get you building it. It only works when they bring their international people. As long as they are there, it works. The moment they leave, it falls apart. So let me put it this way. I told someone this at UL when we were talking 2 weeks ago. What if we realize where we are? Germany is a typical example after World War II. Germany was actually worse off than Liberia, the state of affairs in Germany. Germany decided to decommission all of their universities. They built all technical colleges because they wanted their education system to be directly responsive to the needs of their country. And at the time, what they needed were engineers, were nurses, were plumbers, were bricklayers, like those, like auto mechanics. They didn't need psychologists. And so no disrespect to all of those areas. They're very important areas. But your society has to be operating at a certain level to fully take advantage of a research degree. Right now, I laugh at somebody. If you're good at mathematics in Liberia, poverty are your portion. You can only teach in a school. You have no labs. You have no scientific inventions that are going on to say a mathematician will become very important in Liberia. So what Germany did was they built technical colleges. Until today's date, 52% of all young people graduating from high school in Germany go to technical colleges. They don't do research-based degrees. Later on, after their technical degree, the ones that want to advance scientifically or whatever, then go and do research degrees. Because of that, Germany has the lowest youth unemployment rate in the world and one of the world's strongest economy. I don't need to tell you about German engineering. People still boast of it till today. So what if in Liberia, all those old pops and moms that we still have around from BWR days that are excellent and very well experienced but don't have a PhD? If we had technical colleges, we could turn to something called industry-based professors. So they are not PhD, but their level of experience equates them to industry-based professors. We do it here in Canada and the West. When we do that, then we are giving our young people the type of education they require. Every time we graduate people in Liberia, there should be an immediate boost in the economy, because the skill sets and knowledge that we are teaching is supposed to be directly applicable to where the country is at. So for me, the education system is a whole turnaround that has to be done. The last thing I will speak about will be the diaspora. Like it or not, the Liberian diaspora is the current middle class of the country. That's the reality. Whether you want to accept it, you get a diaspora that sends you $686 million in a year. That's bigger than the country national budget. But here's what's happening. I told somebody, citizenship in Liberia has always been a political tool to exclude. Never in our history have we used history to actually include, or citizenship to actually include. The first time we decided when we brought it, we said women cannot vote. We went ahead, we said people who ain't got real property cannot vote. So we only had a small portion of our country voting. In 1976, we decided to bring the Alien Nationality Act for those who are ran away from the country to make sure they don't come back and compete for political power. Now, we have the first opportunity to use citizenship as a tool of engagement and an economic opportunity. Again, we decided to set up a political witch hunt against Liberians who, by no fault of their own, by the way, many of them, came out here and had to take out other citizenships. We're driving them away by setting up a law that says you can be president, you can be vice president, you can be minister of finance, but you can be minister of health. So since when being minister of finance is more important than being minister of health? So in my opinion, dual citizenship in Liberia is inevitable. The country was built as a dual citizenship country. The sooner we can wrap our head around it, becoming president of Liberia says you must win an election. You can't just go to Liberia because you got money and become president. The citizens of Liberia must vote you. They must elect you. So in my opinion, the first major economic opportunity we have, I told somebody the last time, to be a Liberian citizen, a natural-born Liberian citizen, is an inalienable right. To hold a U.S. passport is a privilege. It's not an inalienable right. In life, we don't pay for rights. We pay for privileges. What if you have said, for example, just a simplistic view, $200, a dual citizenship tax on people who hold that? You're not paying for your Liberian citizenship. You're paying for the privilege that other Liberians don't have. And then we actually tell people, say, okay, you must own real property in Liberia, $5,000, what in assets? Because citizenship got two things. It has rights and it has responsibilities. If you're not living in Liberia, but you want to fully enjoy the privileges of your Liberian citizenship, then you must have a stake in the game, in the national pie. So that when somebody throw a rock to Ira Junction to break a building there, when they play you get Congo, you living in America, your heart will be beating You'll not be egging the people on to keep stoning the place because you know you might be directly affected. Let's have a conversation until, for me, we can get dual citizenship in the Liberian diaspora right and education right. We can build the most sophisticated systems in the country. It will collapse at the moment we actually finish with it.
Hey, Lucy.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, anyone else can chime in.
If I could, no, I just want to respond
Yeah.
because Mr. Johnson spoke very eloquently and passionately. He made a lot of sense. I want to bring it right back home to Liberia. Okay, you talk about what the Germans did. The Guineans did a variation of that when they asked the French to leave. The similarity, though, the commonality between the two is the audacity to do something radically different. It hurts my heart and grieves my spirit because we don't see none of that on the horizon right now. So let's just talk education. I'm in higher ed at Cuttington as the vice president and over the graduate programs and the doctoral program. Let's talk education. The University of Liberia, okay, you talk about technical school. I totally agree. In fact, I thought that in the post-war era, it would be our reconstruction era. And we will be designing things that we needed the most. Construction people, road builders, those are the things we needed. But look at the university. Not only is the university poorly run, the university is still underfunded. While I was there, we were striking. Today, they're still striking. You know what they're striking for? To pay the employees. Think. But look at the budget. Look at the budget. 68.9% of that budget is for, I call it non-productive sectors. So you pay all these astronomical salaries. Well, only the Nigerians paying at that level in this country, poor country. You're paying those salaries. You're paying LEC. I'm sitting here in Guyatan in the dark, right, with my generator. I have the ability to purchase power, but it's not available. But the CEO gets paid $17,000 a month. So when you don't tie perks to privileges and people don't have to be, we're not doing anything radical. In fact, what we're doing is more of the same. And I hope that the president will pull this thing together because right now it's beginning to look eerily similar to 6 years ago. It's just more of the same. We're stacking all the positions. The government is already bloated. The government is already overstaffed. And we're putting all the people's money into compensations, into vehicles, into scratch cards. So when you do that, you don't have the resources to do the radical thing that Mr. Jones is talking about. And I totally agree with him, but it takes will. It takes a leader who will be drastic. This president can do that. In fact, that can be legacy leadership. But more of the same is going to get us more of the same. So it has to be leadership. It has to be a shift, and it has to be drastic. Maybe what we need in this country is national protest. Maybe we all need to do sit-in until they lower all the salary of all these ridiculously highly paid people and create that shift so that we get from the bottom up. The microeconomy, the microeconomy shifts to macroeconomy. It starts from down here. So if the resources can shift, and remember now, most of the nation's resources are in the public sector. That's government. So if we can make that shift, and I don't think it will happen unless we get drastic. Well, we're not going to do any violent thing in our country no more. We passed that. That didn't work. So we already know that's out of our history book. Totally ain't working. So nobody trying that.
Let's stop the remittances for 6 months.
Yeah, nobody there. But there you go. There you go. That's where Liberian can hold your money. Okay? Hold your money. And all the foolishness we're talking here, people will start to shift. Until we take action, it will be more of the same. And then we find ourselves in this awkward place where we just rationalize and justify. Well, let's do this Liberia. We need to be radical, and then we get some good results. It's possible.
Can I get an import, please?
Yes, you can do that, and after that, we'll hear from Mrs. Kane.
Okay, so let me first of all acknowledge Leo. Thank you. Thank you for your generation and generations to come. Big dream. I met a young man way back when here who look at us and say, dream big. Coming from a little country like Liberia, where as a girl child, I was not taught to think for myself to some degree. You know me, I can be very defiant. I learned to challenge every borders, every boundaries, to think that big. There are other people who have traveled that path, but to think beyond where we've traveled before, the rubber frost, you took a role less taken. So congratulations. I want to say thank you to you. Hopefully other young people can see you and model, not particularly that, and think without the box completely and venture out. So that's visual, something that is you have made where once was impossible possible. That said, I wanted to come to you. I teach social study history. I learn history, war history. So I usually talk about how nations are built, how nations were built, from Germany to the very America that we live in after the Civil War, the Reconstruction era, to Japan, reconstruction of from the monarchy to a what I call democracy, Italy, the rebuilding. All of us know after World War II, the whole of Europe suffered, even England. Okay, but the focus on where was, I would say, customization, and that is what I thought Liberia would have done. Enculturation. As I spoke of where Leah just spoke on, instead of all packing our kids out, if you look around in Liberia, the who among who's, the so-called educated, are educated outside of the country. All right. So they're not accustomed to, or they cannot bring in the whole. What Saudi Arabia did in the early 90s, or when they found out about their oil and all of that, they decided they would recruit professors, people who could speak English, because they were looking 20, 30 years in advance. They wanted their children to be bilingual, number one. So they brought in English teachers from England, from America, have whatever accent. They needed engineers. So they hired engineers around the world to carry them to teach their children. They gave them first 6 years. Okay. After that 6 years, the next group of young people will be the professors that will take the next group of young people to come in to shape their work. We all know, all of us want to go to Saudi Arabia. I'm going in the fall. Okay. Everybody want to go to Dubai. How did that come to? It was not a miracle. It was a plan. It was the will, power to want to do so. I've always said the last 6 years, we are the middle class, the diaspora in Liberia, never created. And what really cool is my generation is facing out. Okay. We who came on the resettlement or who ran away in the 80s, in the 90s, we're facing out. All right. And most of our children don't have the connections, okay, that we have to our people, the way we remit fundings to Liberia. So if Liberia is delaying tapping into the resources that they have, that our children will also be connected, they will miss out on the opportunity that they have. Millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars annually. And I do agree with Leo that the opportunity to be responsible, even $200, even if you say $300, okay? You think about us, there are more than 1 million of us in the diaspora, not just in America, not in Canada, not in Germany, okay? Go to Asia, all right? You are talking enough money to start building. And Dr. Butler, let me commend you on that, okay? I am literally a fighter, all right, in a different way, not going to bushes. I strongly believe people like you who have spoken up all your lives at this point, and other people have to lead the charge to say no more. We can't do this. We can't spend almost 70% of our annual budget on recurring expenditure. There's nothing left. For instance, I think the budget at the fire service is like around 600,000. 550 of that are on payment to pay people. There's nothing there for the program. So our people will watch them on live show as they died, burning in houses. We can't go on this way. And I don't think the scholarship given to our people to come abroad is beneficial to our country, because it's not tailored to our country, what our country needs right now. What Liberia needs right now, that Leo's rightfully said, and I'm going to amplify, engineers, plumber, people that can work with their hand, people that can envision, not just people that can count money and put it in their pocket. Not the office one with the ties, because this is the culture that we are cultivated. People think if you work with your hand, then you are nobody. If you sit in an office, because that's what we project. Until we change the way we think, so what we've created is the outcome of our thinking. So we have to retrain. Me as a educator in America, I have to have certain amount of credit every year to stay in that business. I got to get certification, recertified, certain time of the time. Even my school must be reaccredited before it can continue to teach. It's not a shutdown. So we have to rethink the way we have done stuff. But all in all, I would say to Doc here, it's good to be on the same platform with you, Dr. Wilson. I've been here before. All of us are here. But we have to rethink and re-engineer the way we have taught before and take a different approach in the reconstruction. This, for me, after war, is the reconstruction era for any nation to have. And you will know the first government I take over, the second government I take over sets the tone. We have not been able to. I'm not sure, maybe we don't have the will. If the people that we choose to lead or don't have the will, then the citizen must, because this is their life, this is the future of their children, must take the lead. And somebody have to take the lead. Doc, you're here. Sorry to put you up front, but hey, I'm just saying.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Cindy. So, as you're listening, our viewers, please send us information, ask us some questions. Is it right for us to just take huge amount of money sending people at Harvard and to learn, maybe get a PhD in social work, or get a PhD in administration, and then when they go back to Liberia, there's no job, and they get frustrated. And some of them, before even they graduate, they decide to stay because where are they going to work? So is that a waste? Yes, it is. Instead of us putting those scholarship money together, as Leo rightly stated, to build an institution that more Liberians will benefit. So we're going to turn it over to our own Mrs. Anita Kui to give her own perspective. Anita, the floor is yours.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm going to start from the point that the booklet made about molestation. In the Liberian thing, you say, do not live above your means, or somebody on the street will say, cut your coat according to your measurement, right? So Liberia living above their means because I think if we have the chance to have this economic crown code implemented by the international communities where there are standards set, where people will be accountable, where there will be transparency in our government agency. I think one manager will not just get up where agencies are not even bringing any revenue, they're not doing anything to actually contribute to government cover, but they actually just liability on government. But we just want to fill those positions because they existed from 2015 or on Manaseri, or maybe in the 80s they existed, or they have not been able to change their strategy to do anything for the country. But we just want to put people there because we have partisan that everybody that campaign for us, we need to reward them with jobs. So we look for places to just put them to give them free salary, no job description. We just put them there to give them free salary. So because of that, the government will continue to spend, they will continue to spend, they will continue to spend, and some of them will just continue to steal from the Liberian people as they continue to do right now as it is. For me and many of my friends and family, we're praying for this war and economic crown code that people, if Liberia right now, the international community was just saying, hey, we're going to just bring war crown code. By now we'll have that code in Liberia because the people that participated in the war, they are not many, but they attach the economic crown code to it. That's the reason they're having all this pushback. And I don't even know if that code going to come in our lifetime because right now they are doing the politics asking that they're making it so difficult to the extent that we don't know. But if economic code come today, and everything that people have stolen from us, because all these systems that everybody talking about, the educational system, the health system, our justice system have been compromised. That somebody can hurt you today. Once they know the judge, they pick up phone and call the judge, they can't do nothing to them, they'll go start free. Country where you can be raped and then somebody say, keep your mouth shut, that person a boss, you don't have to say anything, or like your uncle or like your relative. but it will bring a system that will hold all the corrupt actors accountable, where people will be afraid to repeat things that everybody in Liberia corrupt. Half of us corrupt. Even you don't in government, you just send a child say go buy me something, they're not bringing you change back. That's the system we have. But if we start holding people accountable for these things, where they see the minister going to jail, the representative is no longer the representative because he stole, he going to prison. The senator has taken the county development fund and opened a personal hospital or a personal university. Because of that, he going to prison. So all these things will kind of be like an example for us. So even if a young person coming from college, now you go to Liberia, everybody want to be politician because that's the easy way to get rich. There's no accountability in that. There's nothing, nobody hold you accountable. You just have to shout. You have the loudest voice. Whether you're not smart, you what. Once you can talk, everybody people go to get popular in Liberia. So if we come up with this code where we hold people accountable, the next generation, us that sitting on the bench, nobody won't go for government job because you want microscope. You're not going to steal, you're not going to misbehave. You will be held accountable. So once we take that first step, we will be able to put system in place because money that will come to agency and ministries will be used for the internal purpose. Nobody will just be there and say, because today I'm a boss for the agency, or let's say I run EPA, I'm the executive director, so I can just take all the agency money and pay myself for all the international trade and buy all the big cars and have all the convoy, whether the agency running to meet its internal purpose or not, I'm not interested. But I don't know what's going on with Liberia. We are praying this war and economic conquer will be a turning point for us in our country, and we hope that is implemented. Once that is done, we will begin to see some changes. Educational system, as we were talking about, or in the university library, we have three accounting board, the whole library. If I go to the library, I have to do my homework. I cannot take that book home. I have to stay there 30 or 45 minutes. I need to do it so I can pass it on to the next person. And you see students will go and cut pages for it to take it home. We don't know, a lot of people in the university that didn't know how to use computer. So you cannot go online to do your homework. You actually have to go with somebody who knows accounting to open a textbook for you to sit in the library, discuss, and do homework. These are challenges. So when I left Liberia, came here to go to grad school, the first 3 months were not easy for me. It was a serious challenge for me to overcome the fear, to be able to fit in the society here, to be able to go through grad school and graduate, first master, now doing second master. At least I can say now I know exactly what we go through back home, where you go to the villages, people in the 10th grade, teaching up to 10th grade level. You see somebody in 7th grade, one B-boy in the town, teaching the entire high school in the village because they don't have teachers. Somebody that just finished high school but did not have a job, go back to the same school to teach and teach up to 12th grade. So it's just garbage in, garbage out. There's no solution for that until we have law on the book, but it has not been implemented. I don't see how we can get rid of that. It is going to be a gradual process. And Leo, I want to say thank you so much for that library that you brought. The people in Monserrato, they really blessed. Because if I were in Morovia now, I would sleep there, I would say. Because no need to go sit down educate, but be fighting for one book when I get free library in Princeton, right? So thanks a lot. But we need to implement the rule of law to hold people accountable to change, to be able to change our system. I will stop
Thank
here.
you so much. Thank you, Anita. So we'll go quickly to Mr. Felix Wilson. From your perspective. And the next speaker we hear will be from Dr. Caroline Davis. Mr. Felix, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Good evening, fellow panelists, and let me apologize for my tardiness. I usually like to warm up into this thing, and I'm afraid that's been taken away from me because I missed some of the earlier comments. So it's like walking into a fire hose, right? And you have to deliver. But Liberia, the topic that is near and dear to my heart, and the topic that we're discussing today is again, just what I love to talk about, investing in our people, in human capital development, education, healthcare, and social safety nets, the rule of law beyond elections, democracy in general. You know, I always say, and every time I sit and hear not only this platform and many others, I smile, I marvel at where we are as a country because I've been on the record before as saying we need to start from scratch. I wonder sometimes how we're considered to be an operating country in the world today, given the many ills that we continue to see in our society. Um, but anyway, we are where we are. And I believe there is still hope. I believe that our situation is salvageable. That we can still, in a very short time, if with right leadership, right, with the right leadership, move ourselves from where we are, an underdeveloped nation, into the membership in nations of developing or developed countries around the world. But again, I think it takes leadership because a lot of what we talk about, I mean, there's thousands and thousands of great ideas out there. And I've heard many of that on this platform even today. Um, and Liberia's situation is ripe for just about any and all improvement initiatives, right? But there are some assumptions we have to make because sometimes when we talk, as passionate as we are, um, we have to understand that the thousands or hundreds and thousands of us out there don't have the same thought about Liberia or the same feelings, right? For whatever reasons. There are people I've talked to personally who just don't regard Liberia, and I'm talking about Liberians, okay, who just don't regard Liberia as their home anymore, either because of their experience in the war, right, what happened to them, or because of their frustration with the corruption situation, or what have you. So one of the assumptions that we tend to make is that all Liberians out there love Liberia. I wish I could say that's true, but I don't think so. I hope the majority do, because that's what it's going to take to move our country out of where it is into the nations of developed countries. Um, Again, I believe the grassroots of our society's development goes back to education. All right. We talk about it many times again on this platform about the illiteracy rate in our society, the youthfulness of our society. And my fear is that one of my frustrations today will continue to live on if we don't fix that problem. Because there's a big divide between those who are so-called educated and the non-educated. There's this whole generation or two in the middle that are struggling, that are lost, right? Um, and we continue to, one of my frustrations is we continue to repeat or recycle most of the time the same old commodities in our political system, right? Um, People who were ministers and holding high places when I was growing up are still around, being recycled. How do we expect to get new ideas, right? So education is key. The whole system needs to be revamped. Early childhood, the technical training that my brother Leo mentioned, all of the above. And when I talk about leadership, this is what hurts me a lot. And it's happened since we had an opportunity to rebuild after the Civil War. Administration after administration after administration has come in and to me, have done very little to move the ball forward because they have not done the right thing. Okay? What's wrong with having a strategic meeting? We call it a conference, whatever. But the country needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. And to do that, it requires patience, it requires rolling up your sleeves and doing the hard work. Pull your cabinet together, pull your best and brightest, okay, into our war room, whatever you want to call it, and look, discuss every aspect of our society, from early childhood education to technical college, okay, to the role of civil society, the role of businesses, our business climate. Today, our economy is run by foreigners. Okay? I got so frustrated, I shared with Ms. Kier the other day when I learned not too long ago that the Chinese control the sale of sand in our country. Sand for construction. Why is it not managed by a Liberian-owned business? So
Sand and crushed rocks.
It's right. It's so frustrating. Okay, and I ask, what are we doing as a people? You know, so to me, the answer is right at our fingertip, but the right leader has not come along, and I don't know why is it. You know, and one of them, I was make one last point. I've listened to some of these talking shows, and everybody's very frustrated at the current administration because of, you know, lack of progress. I tend to be still on the fence because, yeah, they've stumbled. There's been some things, but I'm trying to give them time, right? At the same time, though, people need to understand the difference between political speak and what a leader is really all about. Politics is a very vicious, what you call it, career, and a very vicious place to operate in. Politicians will say just about every and anything to get elected. How serious are they? You know, we've talked about vetting our politicians on this platform before. You know, when Mr. Boycott, or President Boycott, talked about his 100-day agenda and all the things he was going to do, I'm very critical because I look at those things and I look at where we are and I look at our financial infrastructure and ability, and I question a lot of those things immediately. I say, man, there's no way you can do this within 90 days, right? But it's the common man thinking that way. No, all right? And so those are some of the things we need to look at. And lastly, to Liberians out there, I would love to see more trying to find ways to work with the government, right? And this is an appeal to the government directly too. Create an atmosphere, a way in for the diaspora and others to come in and help you. What do you need help with? Build a website, do a needs analysis, put it up there, you know, and tell us what can we help with? Because it's about time Liberians from all walks of life needs to pool our resources, because standing by and just critiquing is not going to get the job done. All right, so we need a way in, all right, to help and rebuild our country. This is the only way it's going to work. So leadership, education, love for country, right, and working together. You know, lastly, I applaud you again, Lee. I saw the announcement the other day about the building of the library in Painesville, right? And this is something I've been hopping along all along here in the U.S. to my friends and colleagues, anyone who were listening, that we in the diaspora can pool our resources to do impactful things. And one of the examples was, why not build a national library that benefits everybody? We don't have that as a country. We call ourselves an operating country. We don't even have a mailing system, right? The rule of law, oh my God, don't get me started there. I heard some of that here. People are getting killed, and there's nobody talking about it. Who's investigating those things? So there's so much to go on, but I'll rest my case there and look forward to hearing more from the rest of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As asked a question regarding what you just stated, that we should put our resources together, help the government. Uh, as far as they're concerned, this government is built on partisan, and even talk to anyone is so difficult. And they are happy that you said build a website, and so they want to understand more what does that mean, because even to get people to talk to a minister or anyone is just a difficult thing.
So I would say is the challenge is twofold, meaning
Okay.
the government has a responsibility, and so do we in the diaspora, right? And just as a people, we don't need to look far. Our culture in and of itself is a challenge for us because we tend to love to do things by ourselves individually. Very seldom do you see a handful of Liberians come together to make a difference and work together successfully. Everybody wanted, that's one of the reasons why we have 20, 30, 50 political parties. Everybody wants to be the leader. It cannot be. We know that's not realistic. So we have to come together. And I feel like we in the diaspora have a challenge to show to our brothers and sisters back home that unity is possible. Okay? We can come together. We have a national conference, a national dialogue amongst ourselves. Because guess what? Money talks. And we have the ability, all of these millions of dollars we're sending, if we just pull percentages of that, all right, and put them in a bank and go to the government to talk about different things that we see as a need, they will listen because they want the influx of the money to help them look good. So that's one way to get the government to talk to you. Besides, if we organize ourselves, for example, here in the United States, the power to persuade is immense. We can lobby our Congress people and they will listen because a lot of us, thank God, okay, are citizens here. All right. And over here, the voting block matters. All right. So many other, the Ethiopians, okay, are benefiting from stuff like that. All right. Other non-core immigrants, I should say, okay, are benefiting. Why not us? Because we are so splinter. We probably have thousands or hundreds of thousands of different Liberian organizations. Tribal, what's the end brother? Who's going to bring us together? Let's come together. Let's have a conference. Let's pool our resources. And you'll be amazed at what we can do. So that would be my response to that.
Thank you so much. I think we'll turn over to Dr. Caroline Davis, but someone from Moserado, you're talking plenty here. The government cleaned the place, the city, Moserado, for the election. And right now, go and see what the people are doing. So it's like the government will do something, but also the citizens have their responsibility. Because if the government clean your area, take out all the trash and took it off, and then when you get up in the morning and put the same trash, but the first thing is, do we have trash can for people to put things? So someone will speak to that your question. So we'll turn it over to Dr. Davis, who will also just give a perspective, and I'm hoping that you address that question. Dr. Davis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lucy. And like Philip, I want to apologize for being late. Today, our church, the women had an event, and I just got back from it, and but I did inform Lucy, so she was aware. So I'm sorry for being late, and you know, but first of all, as an educator here in the United States, first I want to commend Leo for what he's done to build a library in Liberia. That is very um, remarkable and applaudable. So thank you so much. Um, God bless you. As an educator, um, every year I go to Liberia. During the war, the Lord used me to start a school there in Liberia. And when the school started, that was because all the schools were closed and our children didn't have anywhere to go. So we started a school. I started the school because I was encouraged. We had this spirit ship that went to Liberia. And we went on this ship, and I told the lady to carry lots of books to Liberia. And I told one of the ladies on the ship, I said, look, I'm really thinking about starting a school, but I don't even know how to start. And she just said a simple thing to me. She said, Caroline, start with start from where you are and with what you have, you know. So we started the Faith Foundation School, and Dr. Melvin Mason, who was the president of Cuttington at the time, I used to teach at the Cuttington campus school prior to the war. And I ran that by Dr. Melvin Mason, and he and I were talking about it, and he helped me to come up with the name Faith Foundation School because I wanted something about faith to be in it and foundation. And he said, but what if you just call it Faith Foundation School? Faith Foundation School started as an elementary school. Thankfully, at the time I was working with the UN, I could afford to pay the teachers from my pocket. Then I came to the United States and continued to support the school there until I felt like they were independent enough to, stand on their own. Right now, Faith Foundation is a high school, is under the the Harvest. It used to be Bethel World Outreach, but it's now Harvest Intercontinental, and it's doing tremendously well. So education is dear to my heart. Rudolph is for many of you, you know that Rudolph is my brother. Okay, by the way, I'm older than he is. I'm his big sister. So just so you know. Uh, but he knows that how our dad stressed education. Our dad, and now when I look back, I could see that our dad was not training us just to be quote unquote African children or Liberian children, but I feel like he was raising up because he saw the potential and he knew that we could be world leaders. So that's how he trained us. Education is important. Our entire education system in Liberia needs to be revamped. Okay. Um, I hear stories like, first of all, the public schools, I mean, it's just almost non-existent. Then you have all these private schools that have sprung up, and they are charging an arm and a leg. And some of them are doing great in terms of educating, but some of them, they just water down the education. Our education system is really broken, and we need to fix it. So a few years ago, during Ellen's regime, um, some friends of ours here in the United States, several educators and non-educators, we came together. Um, my friend Ketra Brown and his wife, Constance Brown, they led that project where we said we wanted to do something in Liberia in the education system, right, to help. And Philip talked about doing these assessment. We reach out to the people. We wrote out everything, just a simple needs assessment survey to find out how can we help you? What do you have? What do you need? How can we help? We never got any response back from them, you know. So it makes me wonder, you know, do we really take the education system seriously anymore? Because I know we were educated in Liberia, and when I came to the United States in 1994, I had a very strong education foundation that I could stand on. So we need to go back to basics, to just upgrade our education system. That is very critical. I've been collecting books and things. We will ship them to Liberia. We'll give it to schools and things. Right now, as we speak, my husband and I, we got 2 storages full of books that we've been talking about opening, because once we went there and there isn't any children's library. So then we started collecting all these books. We took some to Liberia. We trained the schools that we visited. We trained them how to put those books. You don't need library. Here in the US, you can put grade level books if you don't have it. Even if you have a library, you can put grade level books in baskets and put it in the different classroom. So the schools that we went, we trained the administrators in Liberia and said, hey, if you don't have a library, we brought these books and and we carried the baskets with us, um, that we got from Scholastics. And we train them how to put the books in the basket, grade appropriate book in a basket, put it in the library, in the classroom. Let the kids have access to it. Let them read. Let them look at pictures if they can read. Teachers can draw from those books and read to the children there. So yes, we did that training. Excuse me, I need, honey, my throat is dry. you know so yes, we need to fix our education system, and we need to be excuse me, very strategic about it. We need to be very methodical about it. We can be scattered here and scattered there. And I think we in the diaspora, we have the power to come together. It's very important. Thank you, honey. It's very important that um we come together today. Our pastor preached the message about the power of corporate warfare. And he read his text came from the book of Genesis, how Genesis 11, how the people were in one accord, even though they had negative intention to build a tower to reach up to God, but there was unity. And because they had that unity, they were able to build the tower. And the pastor kept talking about the power of corporate unity. I think when Philip said we are some Liberians, I mean, we just can't come together to do this, he is so right. Because I think instead of us be patriotic and let the love of country drive us to do things, whether we get credit or we don't get credit for it, it should not matter. The love of country should drive us enough to come together and do it. But what I've seen in the Liberian community, everybody wants to show how educated they are. Everybody wants to take the credit for this and take the credit for that. I think we need to get away from that. It doesn't matter who gets the credit. Let's do the best we can to develop our country. I think when it comes down to anything, that's all that matters. So I think we in the diaspora, we should come together. I know we got charters in different states. Let's start from the United States. We got Liberians all over, but let's start from the United States. Let's find, like Philip said, let's have like a national conference. Let's find a day. All those first, let's communicate with the different leaders in the different states, and let's find a day when we can come together, because we can have one voice to go to the government, make demands or make suggestions, and I believe they will listen to us. Now, when it comes to the rule of law, corruption has so permeated the society that even the babies are born corrupt. And I tell you a story. 2 years ago, my husband and I would do this. We have a nonprofit organization, and God bless us. We travel to different parts of the world, and we do missions there, especially with orphanages and schools. So we went to Liberia, and we were stopping at a guest house, and we had worked with the different orphanages, about 4 or 5 orphanages that we have worked with, and delivered supplies for Christmas. And then we were left with a whole lot of things that we needed to distribute. So we told the guy who owns the guest house, we said, hey, can you gather the children in this community so we can be a blessing to them? He said, yeah, sure, I can do it. So we made plans, and on Christmas Day, we had the children come on the compound, and we had toys and different gifts put in bags to give them. So the guy was so moved. Before we started distributing the gifts, all the children that came, he cashed some money, and he was giving them $100 each, $100 LD, $100 LD, and $100 LD. And when I got there, I saw him give this little 3-year-old boy. He gave him $100. He put it in his pocket. So the guy went around again, and he came back to the 3-year-old boy, and then he asked the boy, "Did I give you money already?" The little boy said, "No, you don't give me no money, oh. Only 3 years old." So the guy asked him, he said, "You sure?" He said, "Yeah, I sure. You don't give me money." I said, "But I thought I saw him give you money." He said, "No, he ain't give me no money, oh. He ain't give me no money, oh." So by the time we're reaching my hand, he said, "I just joking, yeah. He gave me $100. I just joking." That's how much corruption has permeated our society. And the reason is there is no accountability. People do whatever they want to do when they want to do it. There's no accountability. But I am hoping that under this new administration, people will be held accountable. Because when people are not held accountable, we won't have a culture to live in. We won't have a country to live in. When you hear people say that place there, that's the country they came from, that place or the country where their parents came from, that's because people are disappointed that anybody can do anything and get away with it. We need to stop that. If we are going to grow a healthy system and a safe and healthy environment and country for us to live in, people need to be held accountable. And people need to speak out. When something isn't right, we all need to come together, and we all need to speak up about it. And finally, I would say, I heard, let me just take a sip of water. I heard us talking about what the government is doing and isn't doing. And it looks like the same old, same old. And maybe it looks that way. But I just want to say, I was speaking with someone yesterday. I just want to say, let's give this new government time. Because, the government is not even 2 months old yet. And we have this high expectation set. And it makes me wonder in my mind, why do we have this high expectation set for this new government? And it seems like we did not have it for Ellen's government. It seemed like we did not have it for Weir's government. But now we have a young government that is being formed. And now we got this high expectation. Yes, we need to have high expectation of our government, and our leaders. But let's give them time, because I believe under Joseph Boyka's administration, it's going to be more of a administration of legacy than anything else. And it may seem like right now things are muddy a little bit, But I believe when the dust settle, the actual leader in him, when he has put things in place where they need to be put, you know I think that something will happen, and we all should help. I mean, if they are willing, we all should volunteer to help in some way. And that's where we can come together as Liberians in the diaspora and make suggestions. And I was speaking to Lucy yesterday, and I said, look, all of these things that we are discussing, let's compile something and present to the government, so that they can see and know what we are thinking abroad, and even those that are in Liberia, what they are thinking as well. But like Philip, I am optimistic. I am a very positive person. I believe our country is going to be rebuilt. I believe that Liberia will rise from the dust, from the ashes. I believe that Liberia is going to get to the place where when people look at it, they're going to be like, wow, is this the same country? And I believe it can start even in our generation, even during this time, if we all put a concerted effort together to make it happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We now have 4 minutes after 6. That means we're supposed to be ending at 6:30. For our viewers and our supporters, we want to say we've been discussing the topic, the foundational principles for a healthy system for better and brighter Liberia. And our key areas of focus has been the human capital development, that means investing in people. We also talked about the rule of law, a fair system in Liberia, and then we talk about beyond election. Uh, Participating in your country's government does not stop when you vote. It start when you start at the point at which you voted until the end of the term. So don't just sit there, don't do anything. Also ask questions, share your thoughts with us. So right now we're gonna go around, and the panelists will discuss, give us some few points. If I am watching this show and I am a viewer, I've asked a lot of questions, and I just want to say that we're going to compile your questions on the 31st. We'll discuss the same topic, and we'll have the opportunity to answer your question on March 31st, which is also going to be on the Sunday at 4:30 p.m. But we're going to ask our panelists, those of you who have watched, you share your views, you have your own thoughts, whereas we're going to compile what should someone take away from this discussion when they leave. So we're going to start with our own Reverend Dr. Brookler, who lives in Liberia, because we don't know whether uh, uh, what will happen. So we're going to give you that opportunity. You've taken your time to come here, give you the opportunity to tell someone who is watching what should they take away from the discussion, or even maybe the president of Liberia, a minister, senator, Congress person is watching the show, this particular discussion. What should they take away from the discussion? Reverend Brookler, the floor is yours. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Lucy. You know, like other panelists, I too am very hopeful that our tomorrow will be better than our yesterday. I too am very hopeful that this government would do much better than the last. Um, but I think what's concerning for those of us on the ground at this point, it goes back to that whole system thing. A rectangular mold gives you rectangular bricks. It doesn't matter who's pouring the concrete. You want a square brick, you got a square mold. And I think the concern for many of us is we're watching and the mold is starting to look the same. And if the mold look the same, the
Mm-hmm.
concrete mixer or the concrete pourer will not do anything miraculous. It will produce the same. So, education is a key. It's super important. All the educators here know that education is done best locally. Locally. The reason developed countries have strong education systems because they're local. I taught in Baltimore City, in Baltimore County. It's local. We had our money. We did innovative things. We did creative things. We offer attractive salaries and benefits because education matters and is done well locally. In the city of Baltimore, amongst the highest paid people in the city were educators. See, so we put the money where our our mouths were. In Liberia, that's the complete opposite. Okay, that's the complete opposite. And and if you want a good school here, you hustle to send your child to a private school, and you struggle to pay the school fees
Yeah.
because the public school, the investment is low. That human capital investment that Lucy started talking about at the beginning. Look at developed countries. It's a commonality. You invest in people, you get more back because people are the nation. So I think we need to just work hard and fight for a better system and not just hope that different people will produce different results. Because same game, just different names, same rules, same output. And we need to start working for something different. I'll say this in closing, ability follows opportunity. And as we give municipalities, counties, and things a little more autonomy and authority to do their work, good things will happen in Liberia. When I was in Baltimore, the mayor of Baltimore came to, we had a strong community organization at the time, and we had the Banga Bong relationship. The mayor came and asked for representatives from our community to travel with him to Japan. What are you going to do? He's going to look for investors and bring investors straight to Baltimore and show off the city and all the opportunity. He didn't go to Washington D.C. He didn't go to the governor's office in Annapolis. He came and went straight to Japan. The point I'm making is this: it is so difficult for those of us who have some education, exposure, and experience to use our creative energy to do something apart from government. Everything must be channeled to the river monopoly. It stifles your innovative energy, and it kind of just it gets you sidetracked. So then you have two choices. You have to play the game, go along, and then by the
Mm-hmm.
time you get in that role, you're so assimilated, you're not even atmosphere changer, difference maker. You just go along. Or you can be that outsider that say, hey, we can do something different. So I really think right now we need a whole ton of outsiders, quote unquote, to say we can do this thing differently and we can do it better. And I believe we can. And so we look ahead with hope, but we have to work and not just wish it. We got to work for it. So we'll see what tomorrow brings.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brooklyn. So we asked Mrs. Connie, what do you think, if I'm viewing this show, what should I take away from the discussion until we can meet next Sunday on the 31st at 4 p.m.? The floor is yours, Mrs. Connie.
Yeah, if you're listening, just know that we are discussing strategies to see how we can get our nation free from the bondage that it in. And we are asking us to do this collectively. Now, one person job. We're asking everybody to come together. Open arms to people in the diaspora. We are not strangers that you guys claim. We all are Liberians. And just how you know us when you need your food money, your school fees, and so forth, that how you should also need us when it comes to facing the issues in Liberia. Open your arms, take our ideas, and let's see how we can remove this bondage to kind of resurrect. We were fighting the last civil war in Liberia. Ivory Coast were fighting civil war as well. But Africa has come and revamped their country. They are renovated everything. They were not burning the school building. We were burning our hospitals and school building down. But the background today, they are developed. We're backing them for electricity. If we can just put our act together, ourselves can do the same. We can be that same nation that will not even want to come to America because we'll have everything in our country. So let's work together and change our nation.
Thank you so much. So we'll go quickly to our own Reverend Dr. Edwin Lloyd.
I just want to say thanks to the panelists. What I gather here is listening to the eloquent exposition of all these the panelists here. I gather one thing here is that we need to bring in expertise into Liberia to be able to train technocrats for the process of post-war construction. Basically, that's what I'm hearing. And so basically, it's important that we bring in those the experts or the expertise from abroad. And what have been one of the things I've been interjecting in conversations, as especially I gave an example of the healthcare delivery system in Liberia. I said many of the government officials and Liberians will travel abroad to get quality medical care. And I said to myself, why can't we just a portion part of the Liberian budget go out and hire doctors in various specialties, bring them into Liberia, and give them a contract for at least 10 years, and to be able to, and then have them work in the various hospitals. And then in that manner, automatically in a short span of time, we have all the medical expertise we need to get the quality medical care right in Liberia. All right, and then while those medical doctors and in various specialties are there, have them teach at a university as part of the contract. So when that contract ends, you will have qualified Liberian medical doctors who will be able to take over. That's an investment that we can make to just turn over the healthcare delivery system overnight in Liberia. All right, and also uh, Ms. Yashini, if I pronounce her name right, I mispronounced. I'm sorry, but she stated that the middle class, right? The middle class of Liberia now is the diaspora, right? And now the diaspora is fading. We are fading in the years. Our years are passing. And then if the connection that we have, our children would not have that connection, and therefore the remittance that is going through us would diminish significantly. How can the government strategize to be able to sustain and capitalize on our ability to propel development in Liberia at this time? What kind of system can we put in place? And number three, I want to say here is that the government of Liberia needs to be able to renew the minds of Liberians by coming up with an information dissemination system that would be able to stimulate the thought process of Liberians. I'm in mental health, so therefore I know how it's very important, and for the stimulation of the mind of the citizenry to be able to have them their minds directed towards the national agenda of that country. So it's very important. So how can the government use the print and electronic media begin to put a positive statement, be plugging those things in their minds, and at the same time implementing programs for them to be able to change their mind. And today my sermon basically was about changing the way you think to change the things around you. But if you change the things around, and if you change the way you think, you will definitely change the things around you. And so therefore, it's important that we begin to strategize how we can change the way Liberians think. The example was given of a little boy with $100. Can you imagine? Liberia, the educational system in Liberia is not developing leaders to take over tomorrow. We do not. We are afraid that we would not have qualified leaders if you subtract the expertise from the diaspora. Is Liberia training leaders for tomorrow to be able to handle the tax of post-war development? Are we doing that? And so it's very important, because that means the country is facing a very dangerous stage, a pivotal page stage towards the future. Because what is happening here is that pretty soon, when we fade away, and the younger generation and who are not prepared took over, it will be devastating. And so we face a crucial time in our history today. And so therefore it's important that we all together, diaspora, Liberians, and also Liberians on the grounds, we need to come together. And someone was saying earlier, you need to be able to come and put together a diaspora development fund. All right. And that can be a bargaining chip to be able to influence policy decisions in Liberia. So how can we put a diaspora development fund? You have someone like Leo in Liberia with a very, very, very ingenious project, right? You have Dr. Brooklyn over there with a very, very wonderful project, right? And so the Liberian Diaspora Fund can be able to tackle these honest and committed leaders who are effecting change in Liberia and direct funding to them in a massive scale, because we know that they will be responsible enough to be able to expend those funds to the betterment of Liberia. So these are the kind of targeted actions that we need to be taking, because start tackling individuals and institutions that are actually on the grounds, already running on the grounds, and are already effecting change on the ground, and begin to target them and be able to move forward with them. For example, my denomination, what they do is that I have a nonprofit at my church, right? So what they do is they identify organizations that are within the community, and they identify them as social entrepreneurs, and begin to fund them for doing those things in the community. Instead the larger church coming out to do those things, they capitalize on those organizations that are already doing that in the community and fund them in that way. They indirectly use the funds to be able to effect change in local communities around the country. And we can adapt that same system, especially for those organizations on grounds right now. We are diaspora Liberians. What can we do? Put funds together, support someone like Dr. Brooklyn, continue to support someone like Leo, and these individuals and the organizations that fund them effectively. And then we can be able to talk about change. And one last thing here is that we all know that there was a breakdown in all of the systems due to the Civil War. All the systems broke down, and we need a rejuvenation of those systems. And the folks on the ground, honestly, they lack the capacity to do it, as Leo stated. Because we can design the grandest plan, and let's go and let's present those plan to them. If we don't have the expertise and don't have the know-how, and they do not have the know-how to manage those systems that is established, those systems will be null and void in a short span of time. So it's very important that the government of Liberia need to begin to tap into to our middle class, which is diaspora, and begin to strategize to be able to maximize the potential, both economically, socially, and in the state of human capital, to be able to direct those advantages and potentials towards the national and grand agenda of Liberia. I want to thank you all for this time, and we look forward to the next discourse where we can be able to expand more on what we are currently discussing.
Thank you so much. So we'll turn it over to you, Cindy. Please, let's all stay on the platform to the end. We'll turn it over to you, Cindy, please.
Thank you. Let me say thank you to all of the panelists. Again, it's good to be here to add my voice. And for me, my input and takeaway is, first and foremost, we have to build a system, a working system. We can input everybody and bring them. It's not going to work if we don't have the fundamentals in place. I heard Dr. Law say, I spoke on this and I continue to speak on it. We have presidents who died in other people's hospital in other people's country. We have former senators or representatives and ministers or policymakers who died in other people's hospitals. I mean, year after year, generation after generation. We have not re-engineered our mind to rethink our decisions. So we first have to think about what kind of foundation do we need? I think that's what we're here to talk about. What do we need to change Liberia, first and foremost? And to understand, I know the last president made college tuition free, quote unquote, without thinking it through. We strongly believe from K1 through 8 is what we count as literacy. We call a country that is can read and write from K1 through 8th grade level, a minimum. Okay, that's how we calculate literacy. So if you went to 14-year civil war, majority of the children didn't go to school. And I'm going to say majority because I had an opportunity to travel at least 10 of the 15 counties in the last 6 years. And I know even with Iman Serrato, right outside of Monrovia, most of the kids that don't even know their own ages. We've Dr. Richard C. myself have made it our business to go out and talk to people. In my county, one of the most populated counties next to Montserrato, little girls don't speak English, don't know their ages, most of them. And that is our human capital. That's the next generation of leadership. One thing, though, that I've come to realize is most Liberians are followers. They follow their leaders. It would take the leader to set the tone. For example, when Ellen took over, Ellen first and second travel, she brought back the funds that she carried that she did not use. Most of her policymakers came back with theirs and turned it in. When we had took over, he brought up the proposed suit. Everybody wanted to, even the citizens, get a proposed suit. All right. I'm literally seeing history repeat itself. And I'm glad that we're here. Maybe we need to talk more and maybe focus on maybe two things where that we can exhaust. All right. I see people being murdered, mauled to death. I see people setting people on fire. I see police and ERU opening fire on Liberian citizens. There's no word. It's good. I in my mind of rescue, you're telling me I'm drowning. If you're picking me out of the water, you should be able to resuscitate me. You should be able to keep me alive before I can go through the recovery stage. I mean, if there is. Um, I remember the first time Nana Adu took over in Ghana about 5, 6 years ago. About five. There was a lady who went to the bank to withdraw her money. Whatever she did to the police, she had a baby on her back. The police decided they would beat her up, and they did beat her up. And it happened that somebody recorded that, and we advocates around the world carry it. Nana Adu wasted no time. He came out, mount the podium, had a major press conference that even the international press and say, Ghanaian will not be abused in their own country. Our mothers will not be abused. Okay. The law will have to work for everyone. I haven't seen that yet. So the leader will have to set the tune. I supported, I mean, we had expectation. I had expectation of we are. And we have, because we have expectation of this government because President Bouaka is the most in my lifetime seasoned politician or leader who have been to almost every political industry or ministry in Liberia. He should understand agriculture, the leadership, the dynamics of the tribe, from there to vice president and then to president. And 30 somewhere years in the presidency. And according to him, he understood our plights. He knows what Liberia needs. I have a little bit of reservation based on the hiring process. All right. And I think Dr. Brooklyn spoke about that. We're bringing in the same old people. All right. How do we anticipate change when there's nothing new really? You might bring brand new faces. There are many, I know there are many Leo Johnson in Liberia, but they have never been given the opportunity. When I walk every year in the fall, before we get prepared to go to the classroom, my principal will come and say, every child that walk in our classroom, that's the next president of the United States. That's the next Bill Gates. That's the next Einstein. That is the next what do you call it, gifted him, what's the young man name? Ben Carson. But treat every child in that classroom like they have your last name. So every child I walk in my classroom, and I teach both gifted and challenged kids, where they're lacking is my responsibility as an educator to find means to get to them, to understand them, to find their strength, and make sure when they leave my class to the next grade, they know that somebody was there, that I am the one. That when you go ahead, someday they will say my success was based on this one woman or this one man that I encounter. And this is to all of us. So to go away with this, we need to come back here and we need to invite. I think invitation need to be sent out to some of our ministers that would be in the like the gateway, especially like education minister. All right, education minister. How do we invest into that? Liberia must understand, the leadership must understand a nation GDP and the literacy rate that directly correlated. The quality of education your country has will be the quality of your economy. Because they're the one that will produce for you. They're the one that will think for you. They're the one that will protect the future for you. So, in essence, we must prioritize building a stronger foundation that have principles, okay, and a system, a working system that is based on meritocracy, not section, not tribe, not kinship. When we can do that, in my opinion, and based on my experience and my education, studying and data and statistics, then Liberia is ready to force forward. So we are all a part of that. We're part of this whole. If we can come together, like when I think somebody noted earlier, maybe it's Lucy said when we were in a meeting yesterday, let's have a conference. Let's first pop out who do we want at this conference? What are we trying to accomplish? We know we want education. Where do we start from? You got half of Liberian children that cannot read at 6th, 7th grade level. Most Liberian women, if you go outside of Monrovia, let me tell you, and then I'm going to stop. I am one of those people that Liberia failed. When I came to this country, I had a difficult time, like my sister said. Number one, I will go to school with my peers. I have to find me a micro tape recorder. I have to record. I will come home. I'll have to re-listen to that tape, get other resources for me to be able to make up and get to the point and graduate on time. LU, every little movement, they close LU. The children come out to protest, government after government. They will go out, put their last them. The children should not have to fight to be educated. The children should not have to fight to have amenity, to have bathroom in a school. The children do not have to fight to have a feeding cafeteria. The children should not have to fight to be able to be competitive with the rest of their peers around the world. Educating our children should be our priority, but then look at the country. The foundation is breaking. It's lacking. Until we can look at the foundation, put that in place, and that the nuclear of the country can be rebuilt, we have a lot of work to do. And I'm on board. However, you all think, I'm here to support the process of the building. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're muted, Lucy. You're muted. We can hear you.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I say thank you so much, Jacinda. That was well said and very passionately said. If you are on the platform here, please share this particular information, because we want for a lot of people to hear it and then share their vision when it comes to building a healthy system for Liberia, especially collectively. So we'll go quickly to our own Felix to just give us a takeaway from here. And then next will be Dr. Caroline. Our last person will be Leo, and that's for a purpose.
Thank you. Let me again thank all of you for what you have poured out this evening. I want to keep it simple for my last words. um, first to the Liberian government. If any of you, any of the officials listening, um, it's tough when there's high expectations of you, and you can easily get lost in trying to make a difference. But my advice to you is keep it simple. The best way to bring about change is to serve as chief facilitator. Make it easy for people to get together and do what's needed in the country. All right. Um, you're not going to bring in businesses if there's not rule of law. So you're wasting your time trying to run after people to come into the country if you cannot build a primary security system, a strong one that will keep your citizens safe, right? And allow for people to walk the streets freely without fear of being killed. And when there is atrocity, there has to be swift reaction. And so the rule of law is one thing. All right. Make it easy for Liberians in the diaspora to come back and do business. Make it easy, all right, for Liberians at home to find a path into the economic engine of our society. Um, Strategize on those simple things. All right. We talk about the educational system. Facilitate conference of the best and brightest out there to on how to improve your system. We don't have a mailing system in country all these years. Focus on that, right? I think the biggest challenge you have if you want to do big projects are building the road infrastructure. Aside from that, the rest of the things require simple management and making it easy for people to do the things that needs to be done. So focus on those things and roll up your sleeves. This is not easy work. We cannot continuously rely on the international community to bail us out. We have what it takes. We have what we need, but we need to make good decisions. We have the natural resources. We have the human capital. Simple example, a population of just over 5 million. Let's just assume half of them are making some type of living wage. You could institute a road tax to build your road infrastructure. Even if it's just $1 a month per Liberian, you're talking about $2.5 million that you're raising for your road tax efforts or initiative. All right. Lastly, I say when you focus and look at your international partnership, utilize an example like this. I recently read an article from the Commerce Department in the United States. They formulated a bilateral agreement with the country, the Philippines. And the Secretary of Commerce took a delegation to the Philippines that included high ranking officers, business leaders from the likes of Microsoft, Google, MasterCard, Visa, an Army general, a whole network of leaders. And within this delegation, they took with them a $1 billion infrastructure development package to the people of the Philippines. Took my time to read the 5 pages article that kind of laid out every area that this group invested in, from energy to credit build up, financial institutions, or the electric grill, you name it. Imagine a similar thing happening to Liberia. Can you imagine what $1 billion investment would do? But we have to think outside the box. We have to know how to engage with our international partners. Until this day, I don't think we have realized or reaped from the United States the kind of relationship that we've had with them over the years. And it takes leadership to tap into those things. So if you're listening, be the chief facilitator and try to find ways for Liberians to fund Liberian initiatives. To those of us in the diaspora, the time is was yesterday. It's way overdue. And so I'm on board. I'm sure the Liberian view is going to take the lead because we need to. But that conference needs to take place. And we need to pool our resources. We need to show the world, we need to show our people back home that we can come together as Liberians and make a difference. So I applaud everyone on this call, especially those of us who have made the sacrifice to make a difference for our people. And we need to live out our creed. It's on paper, in unity, success is sure. We cannot fail. With God above, our rights to prove, we will all prevail. We can do it. We can do it, but we have to exert the pride of our individual pride and our collective strength as Liberians. Okay? I will just quickly state, and I'll turn it over to Miss Martin's point. I came to this country, all right, having graduated high school. I set the exams they gave me what you call placement test. This is right after coming from taking the entrance for the University of Liberia. I remember sweating in that math exams because of how difficult it was. I came to the US, I scored 100 on the math placement test because of how simple and easy it was to me. What am I saying? I look out today and I see some of our best and brightest come to this country and they end up being what you call it, greeters or at Walmart or cleaning because what? Our degrees and stuff from back home are not respected overseas for the most part. That's a failure on our part to educate the international community of how good we are. Once upon a time, that was not the case, but that's happening today. So we have work to do, but in unity, there is strength. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, this is so. This is what we call service and sacrifice, and that's exactly what the panelists are doing. They're giving you the information, and so we'll turn it quickly to Dr. Davis, who already, gave us what you need to take away for
Thank you,
this
Lucy.
discussion.
Thank
Go
you
ahead.
so much. I mean, this is really a rich discussion, a rich discourse, and I know that something good is going to come from all of this that we are doing. My takeaway is this. I have some nephews and nieces still in Liberia. And recently, two of my nephews graduated from college. But when I interact with them, they decided to teach. One got a degree in finance and economics, another one got a degree in something else, but they all chose to teach at a low private school in the community because they don't have the means to get a job in the area. And I asked them why. They say it's all about who know you. If nobody knows you here, you can't get any job, you know. So my thing is, as we talk about revamping our education system, and I think that we should make provision, provide opportunities for our youth, for the young people, and some of them are not even so young. Some people in doing a master's now, they're well in the 40s and the 50s, but they have that desire. Let the government make room for these people to utilize the education that they are getting. You know, um, if you don't use it, if they don't use it, even the little they have, they are going to lose that. So that's something I would like to appeal to this new government, to make room for our young people when they graduate college or they graduate trade school. Job is available for them to do. It does not have to be who knows you and who doesn't know you. If the person merits the position, let them have the position. Let's provide opportunity for them. That's just very discouraging for people to go to college. They finish college, even finish high school or trade school, and they don't have any means to use it. They're going to lose that skill if they don't practice that skill. Any skill that you're going to be good at, you got to practice it all the time. So let's make opportunity for them to be able to do that. And Reverend Lloyd says something about, are we training the next leaders for, are we training the leaders for tomorrow? And when he said that, I ran in my living room and I got a copy of my dissertation. And that's what I did my dissertation on. you know Initially I had to cheat. Well, initially I was doing something on the effect of war trauma on the mind of little children, and that's because I was blessed to be trained by the UN and afterwards hired by them to work as a war trauma counselor right in Liberia. But then I went to my first practical, and my professor said, choose a topic that you are more passionate about. If you're choosing your dissertation, choose a topic that you are more passionate about. And I know, coming from Liberia and the need for leadership, I changed my dissertation topic to, let me read it here, next generation of authentic leaders. Okay. How to develop the next generation of authentic leaders. We don't just need leaders in Liberia, we need authentic leaders. And if you read the characteristics of an authentic leader, you know we need that to bring about transformation in our country. So one of the things, Reverend Lloyd was speaking, one of the things that came to my mind, we can do something like the UN did. The UN, what they did when they developed, when they did their analysis of the Vietnam War veterans, okay, and how many of them were suicidal, many of them were unproductive because they never got the counseling they needed when they came back from the war, right? So they chose Liberia at the time. Liberia was fresh from the war. And at the time, there was nothing such as war trauma counseling. So the UN did this pilot program in Liberia, and they wanted to see if war trauma counseling works and if it was effective. And because Liberia was fresh from the war, they chose Liberia. They brought into Liberia many people from different parts of the country to go through that training. They were very strategic. They didn't just throw it out to everybody. They were very strategic to go to very government agencies, go to private agencies, even religious agency, and they said, send us 2 representatives each. And by the grace of God, I happened to be one of those 2. But what it did with us was, They did a training of trainers program. And in the training of trainers program, they train you, the organization that you represent, you go back to them and you train the people there. If we are going to develop the next generation of authentic leaders, or if we are going to train people to be experts in different fields, we should look at that format because it works. We train a group of people, get a core group of people, train them, give them the skills, let them go back to the ministries, let them go back to the churches, let them go back to their community, let them train others, let those people they train go and train others, and we will see the change that will come to our nation. The whole one of the other takeaway, I think, the whole judiciary system in our country needs to be overhauled, because we have a lot of corrupt judges, we have a lot of corrupt lawyers. Recently, when my husband and I were in Liberia in January, we got in situation with a company that we bought a home from, and the guy didn't build our home. We wanted our money back. We couldn't get the money. We took the guy to court, and the a writ of arrest were issued for him. And on the way, all he had to do was pick his phone up and call one of the judges. And the judge told told the sheriff, let the man go, and the man went. I think lawyers and judges that are found guilty of corruption, they should be disbarred. If we, like my brother said, we need something drastic to be done. This is not a time to pat people, and somebody has to rock the doggone boat. We have to shake the boat, let the boat rock. If the boat is going to turn over, let it turn over. But we cannot continue on the same line, the same people, the same old thing. How will people want to go back home? And I said that in my interview that they said Liberians in the diaspora should come home. But when you come home and the foreigners, the person who is doing this, by the way, is a foreigner. But he knows that our judges and lawyers, most of them are so corrupt that he can do whatever he wants to do and get away with it. We need to change that. If we are going to build a healthy and safe Liberia, a country that's safe for us to return to, for our children and their children to return to, we need to hold people accountable, and it doesn't matter who it is. And yeah, so that's what I would say about that. And not just the judges and the lawyers, but also our representatives and senators and whoever is in government. If people are found guilty of corruption or just in abuse of power, whatever it is, they should be brought to justice. When we start to do that one at a time and set the example for others to see, something, it will bring about a shift. And to bring about a shift is one step at a time. What I hear, like recently in January, I was talking to a young man. He said, Oma, I'm telling you now, my one coming to get in government because the government people then are the rich people. Look at these people now, they're making 15,000, they're making 17,000. The government people, they are the rich people. Oma, my partner telling me I should go I'm gonna start to my village. I'm gonna be carrying rice for the people and give, is this the system we want to build? We got to change that system. And I'm glad that Lucy brought about how to build the topic of how to build a good system in the country. We don't want that kind of system. I spoke to a high level former American not politician, but he was in working in the government, and I met him at the inauguration, and he said to me, he said, Caroline, this is it. I said, what do you mean by this is it? He's like, the international world is looking for this government to change things around. And if this government doesn't do it, then we don't know who's going to do it. So a lot is riding on this government, and I see how people have the high expectation. So, my dear brothers and sisters that are on this line, on this call, um, we can all pool our resources. We can be very systematic and methodic, um, to hold together, one, and to help this government. This government, if I know they realize they need the help, they need help, and we can do that. But we have to come together here in this country as Liberians that are over here. We need to have one voice in order for us to be able to go to them, make suggestion, and let's see how we want to help. We don't want to be people who would just criticize the government and don't have any solution. My pastor always said, be a solutionist. Let us be people who have solutions to the diverse problems that we have in our country. Let us pool our resources and let us build a better and a stronger Liberia. Thank you.
Wow, this topic. I mean, this discussion today. I hope you're watching. Get us, share it, and let's get your perspective when it comes to the vision for building a healthy system in Liberia. I just wanted to take this time uh to just congratulate my brother, someone that we've been working together. When I was president for the Liberian Association in the Washington, D.C. metro area, Mr. Leo Johnson was the president for Canada at that time. And we interacted a lot. He helped build the Liberian View. He was a part of it until he took a little leave because he had his dream. And I just want to say, Leo, we are so proud of you on this platform.
We are.
You are an example that Liberia has hope because you're a young person and you've done such a great job. And I know that you've been on this platform, you've been part of it, developing it, and we're grateful that you are back. And you're back so that we can move it to another stage. We've talked about, building a healthier system, stronger system to make Liberia better. You also talk about not photocopying, but building something that is Liberian, that is that customized system for Liberia, looking at our structure. Instead of sending people to Harvard, people say, oh, somebody graduated from Harvard from Liberia. They did administration, spend a lot of money, but you are asking that we take that same money, those scholarship money, and build an institution so everyone can benefit from it, and an institution that will last our country. Your dream that you had, and you really made it happen. You're an example of what we're talking about, that we need to come together. Liberians can do it. In the diaspora, we can lead this particular task. So we had asking, we're going to discuss outside of here where we're going to have our conference. But Leo, I just wanted for us to take I know individual panelists have spoken. They've all commended you, but I just want to take this time to say we are proud of you. You've done so well. So we want to say thank you. So for the conference, we're asking that you join us so we can make it happen. Because you did it yesterday, you can do it again. And everyone on this platform are doing something very, very beneficial in America and in Liberia. So this particular force here, we are forced to contend with, and we can bring people together to make this conference one of the best that will come up with resolve, and it will be presented to the government in Liberia. So I want to say thank you again. So I want to give you this opportunity after we have really discussed this particular discussion today. I know our viewers are listening, they're asking questions, but what do you think that Liberians that are viewing can take away from this particular discussion, especially those in the government and the citizens in Liberia itself?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lucy. And thank you, everybody on here. Like I said, many of you who've come before us, some of the work you've done has been some of the work that we've built on. I usually say stand on your shoulders to move forward. You may not notice it, you may not realize it, but those pieces of nuggets that many of you have dropped in different places in the past have really helped to forge the way for some of the bravery we've been able to muster because of that work. So thank you as well. I would just say this too. everybody. Part of the problem in Liberia is this fixation on the politics rather than nation building. For some reason, we've convinced ourselves that every 6 years, we will magically change a government and Liberia will magically be restored. It's a big mistake. I told someone the last time, even if Jesus Christ had won the election in October, Jesus would have struggled to change Liberia or to take Liberia where they should. Because Jesus, I've told us, he's not a voodoo priest. Jesus worked very practical way. Garbage in, garbage out. You give God garbage, God will multiply your garbage and give it back to you. You give God quality, God will multiply your quality and give it back to you. So for me, we need to move to a place where we are visioning Liberia beyond the presidential tenure or term of any one politician, period. And my attitude has been, if we can't work with you, we'll work around you, we'll work behind you, we'll work on some kind of way. You might slow us down, but you will not stop us. Because we've gotten to this place that when one president wins, and that president and other people president, they get in this position to make Liberia unlivable for everybody else until the next election. We can't do that to our country. When the elections are over and the government is elected, yeah, we can hold their feet to the fire. We can chastise them. But at the same time, that cannot be our final preoccupation. Only hold the government feet to the fire, because we need to create the space that those who want to work in spite of the difficulties can still do the work. That's number one. Number two, I want to remind everybody about what I call the point of reference. Anyone my age who did not leave Liberia, who lived in Liberia, right now, Liberia is a paradise. Because the last time we knew ourselves, it was war. There were bullets. Those of you who live normal days, kudos to you. What you tell us is like fairy tales, because we destroyed the country so badly that there is no example that we can see to say, oh, Liberia was once this bastion of glory. We don't share the same view because there's no example you can point to us to show us. So our point of reference is the war. And if the war is our point of reference, then it baffles us when you tell us the country is bad. Because the last time we checked, we're selling burger with a cup and running around. The last time we checked, there were people with AK-47 shooting over our head. The last time we checked, Greystone was under bombardment. The last time we checked, it was September 18. It was World War I, World War II. Some of you can go back to the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. Some of us, they want to go back to the 90s. So we don't share it. So when you go to Liberia to tell young people that the country is bad and they're not even paying you any mind or any attention, it is because their point of reference is different. And the only way we can change that point of reference if we let them to experience a new point of reference. I made an example to someone. If you've driven a BMW X6 before as your regular vehicle, and let's say hard time hit you, you had to buy a Toyota Camry and sell your BMW X6. The day you start driving the Toyota Camry is the day you start working back to buy yourself a better car, because you've experienced what it feels like to drive a better car. Go to Liberia and you get BMW, drive one of these little kids, take them somewhere to Basoni and come back. The whole community will know how inside your car look. They will tell people, wow, that car that Brabi driving. And now he say, they're the one will take the news. So today, the reason I committed 15 years of my life to this learning center project that we are building, that we've built today, is because I want whenever another lawmaker show up and build something, or another politician show up and build something at Shanti building and say that community town hall, I want the children to take them to Pinsville City Hall and show them what a learning center looks like. To show them, because once you experience, you can't undo it. That's the beautiful thing about experience. You always, because it becomes your new normal. Once you experience is your new normal, you not expire for the best. And the last thing I will close up by telling everybody is that I'm pleased that we want to do this conference, and it's amazing. But I'm one of the people who believe that you put two people in a room, you get 5 opinions. And let's not do this Kumaya thing that because we get 5 opinions, we stop everything until we get all the unreasonable people to agree for us to move forward. We cannot do that. I say that to say, because of this Learning Center project, we've just gotten the Canadian government to approve another $4.9 million for Liberia. Now, Liberia does not even have an embassy in Canada. A small organization that we started is able to mobilize this kind of resources. So imagine what can happen if we just put our differences aside for a second and actually come together. So I've said to people, for me, we will come to the table, we will discuss, and if you want to get hung up in all of the disagreements, I'm sorry, even if we get 0.5 percent of agreement, let's move on the 0.5% of the agreement, because what happens in Liberian circles is that when we gather to discuss, we spend 95% of the time dissecting our political differences and dichotomies and taking things apart that we don't agree upon, and waste so much time that the things that we agree upon, we do zero about. So I think it's about time that if we agree, every one of us agree that the Zogo issue is a problem. So what we've done, we've gotten a $4.9 million agreement with the Canadian government. Over the next 4 years, we're going to spend some time digging deep into the research to help the Liberian government develop a national policy by which the Canadian government can find ways to fund the issue of drug addiction and mental health in our country. We've talked about it too long. We have the people with the expertise. We have the researchers. Why are we not finding the resources, but we're waiting for some politician to win an election for 6 years to give us another flowery words? Don't get me wrong, the government should do their part. I don't disagree with that. However, if the government don't do their part, we can't let our people die just because the government failed.
That's right.
We will not do that. So thank you, everybody, and I'm looking forward to the engagements. We will do our part. We'll continue to contribute. Even if one person becomes better because of our contribution, we don't know where that one person may end up tomorrow. They might be the catalyst for change. So let's do what we can do within our means.
Thank you so much.
Well said.
Again,
well said.
To our viewers, we should have ended at 6:30. Now it's 4 minutes after 7 to show that this discussion was needed, and we are all serving our country, Liberia, by providing you this particular platform. We want to say thank you to all our viewers. Don't forget to share, and we see you Sunday, March 31st for the next discussion. And whereas we take into consideration your question, and for that, we want to say good night and thank you to all the panelists. Job well done.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Everybody have a blessed week.
Get ready for the Liberian View's next discuss this Sunday, March 17 at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time and 9:30 p.m. GMT on StreamYard. This week's discussion will be on what makes a healthy socio-economic system for Liberia. I am Lucy Wilson Kier, founder and CEO of the Liberian View. Don't miss out on this all-inclusive first-hand experience into the current livelihood of Liberians. To watch previous discussions such as Liberians at home and abroad working together for a brighter future and the foundational principles for a healthy system in Liberia, follow the Liberian View at www.facebook.com/The Liberian View or www.youtube.com/The Liberian View. Again, join us this Sunday, March 17 on StreamYard at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time and 9:30 p.m. GMT. Thank you.